All right. 50 Shades Freed. For some reason, I don't like the name. Like, and just the. You get, I don't know if anybody get what I'm trying to say, but it's 50 Shades Freed. And this is the third one. So, 50 Shades of Grey. First movie is called. Yeah. The first one's called 50 Shades of Grey. The second one's called 50 Shades Darker. This last one is called 50 Shades Freed. I don't like the name. I don't Freed. I don't like the Freed. I don't know. For some reason, that just doesn't sit well with my brain. Anything. Anyway, not much to say after the first 12 minutes. Well, I mean, it, I don't know. Anyway, let's just get into it. Second movie, no, yeah, second movie ended with Christian Grey proposing to Anastasia Steele. Um, she never signed a contract, right? She never signed a contract. He's trying to do a little bit differently, but she's agreeing with the what we want to say, like the kinks that he has or whatever. She's going along with it. Um, Second movie was more her asking to do certain things, and um, so far this one is set up is just like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is how we're going to do certain things. There's a lot of things that he'll speak up and say, oh, I'm uncomfortable with this, or and she still do it or anything like that. So second movie ended with uh, Christian proposing to Anna, right? So that was one. But in the second movie, she had the job and she had that boss that liked her, tried to get at her. They had the whole thing. Christian got, well, yeah, Christian made a call or so, got the boss fired, and then she ends up getting that position. There was a person, I'm not sure if it was still him this whole time, but there was a person who was at Christian's birthday. Well, it was a masquerade party. There was a person who had took a picture of whatever Christians. There's a person who took a picture of Christians, like one of the family pictures on the wall. Somebody had took a picture of that. They didn't really show who that was. At the end of the movie, you see a guy. While there's fireworks and stuff, there's a guy who like lights up a cigarette and then burns that picture or something like that, or whatever picture they took. I guess they had it printed, and then it kind of sort of falls on that. Anyway, there was that. But it's apparently, I'm not gonna think too hard and say, oh, is this person that person? Let's just say it's just that's what they're assuming that, and that's what it's just gonna be, right? So, her former boss that she ends up, that the one that got fired, that tried to make passes at her, that she ended up taking his position. So apparently, let me just say what happened in the movie, and then we'll get there. So the movie starts off with them saying their vows. They get married. Like that's as soon as the movie starts, they're getting married. They're saying their vows. After they're saying their vows, they kiss and everything. Then they start dancing, and then he's like, "Let's get out of here." So they immediately go from the wedding. They hop right in the car. They get to a jet. She's like, "This yours?" He's like, "You own this?" "No, you own this. We own this. It's ours." So is that? So they immediately go from the wedding. They hop on a private jet, and then they go to Italy. At first I was like, is this Paris? Is it France? But they immediately go from the wedding, hop on a jet. But you can tell it's European. They go into like these little different things and little eateries. What's that little thing? Like not like the Basilisk Cathedral. Like they're going inside these little places with architecture on the walls, paintings on the ceilings, and all that type of stuff. So they're going to little places. They're exploring the city. Um, then it goes to, but then like if you can't tell certain parts, then finally it switches to. It shows another scene, and if you don't know nothing about like the Amalfi Coast, so it's like, oh, they're in Italy, so they get married, and then as soon as they get married, they get a private jet, they go to Europe, they're in Italy, they're doing this and the third, boom, 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 and then they get to another little spot. So when they finally like there's dialogue and conversation and them talking, then it gets to um, I'm not sure how you want to call it because they don't really show too much of the other people, but then there's a little back and forth about her. He's like, So for what she says put some the suntan lotion on her back, and so he's like, if you insist, you know. And so she was like, just take it all the way off, like her bikini. And he was like, no, you know, because he has Taylor's there. She's like, why do we need security? He's like, we just need security inside there, boom, boom. So he put some suntan lotion on her, and you know, he's being overly protective, and he's just like, I don't want all these people looking at you, goggling at you. She's like, yo, this is boob land. There's boobs everywhere. Like, boobs as far as you can see. Nobody's worried about mine. He's like, until they're in some sleazy tabloid. So he's saying stuff like that. So he was like, I'm going for a swim. She's like, yep. He's like, you coming with me? She's like, yep, I'm right behind you. But she stays laying down. Then she eventually takes her bikini top. When he comes back, she's so first she was laying on her stomach when she first whatchamacallit, and then when he comes back, she's laying on her back. He's like, what are you doing? This ain't there. You know, he don't overly whatchamacallit, but then he throws like a towel. He throws like a towel on. He's like, yo, this ain't there. Boom, boom. He's like, we're getting out of here. Let's get on a boat. They give him a little jet ski. They go next to this little yacht and this next little boat. Like these are like there's a whole bunch of like nice little stuff and aesthetics and scenes and whatnot, right? So then it goes from there, and then outside of that, from there, let's see, goes to uh, yeah. So he's like, why do you insist on defying me? What should we do about all this defiance and this disobedience? He was like, why do you defy me so much, Mrs. Gray? She was like, because I can. And it's like, boom, boom, boom. And he's like, what do you think we should do about that? And then he braids her hair, and she's like, why do you always braid my hair? He's like, hush. And then, this and third. And then he grabs the handcuffs. And then handcuff. This one is like, I guess, is doing these little things of showing you whatever how that whole lifestyle is, kind of sort of stuff like that. So he grabs the handcuffs. One set goes. He puts it her wrist and her ankle, and then same thing on the other side. So two sets of handcuffs, wrist, ankle, wrist, ankle. And then they have a little session. Then she was like, I should be disobedient or disobey more often or whatever. He was like, all right, maybe you should, you know. So they do that. Then they get a call. They get a call from whatchamacallit. So there's like this little slip scene that they put in there. Somebody got a visitor's pass to, I don't know what Christian's, company is, but somebody gets like this little pass or whatever. They go into the thing, they get access, and then they walk into a room. It doesn't show who it is, it just shows a guy in a suit. He walks into this room, he changes clothes, he puts on a hat, puts on a whole nother different outfit. He walks out, does some little thing, he walks into this little, how he knows all this stuff, who knows, whatever. It's not a hacking type of situation, but he sets the whatchamacallit and he walks out. So then while they're in Italy, they get a scene. They get a call from his assistant. She's like, yeah, there was an explosion. It was arson, and she said she shows in the video and whatnot. And then Anna's like, wind it back. She was like, that's Jack. So Jack Hyde, and that was her former boss from the company that made a pass at her, and Christian got on fire, and then she ends up taking his job. So then Christian was like, when it was, so he also mentions like when they did the whole helicopter thing, remember his helicopter had went down. So he was like, he said he did some little reports and this and the third, and he's like, they don't think that it was just like a thing that just happened. There was like, it was sabotage. And she's like, why do you think Jasper goes to all these lengths and do all this? He's like, I don't know. So he was like, did they get any, with the whole explosion and this and the third, he's like, maybe he caused the explosion to cover his tracks. And he's like, what? And then he's like, well, did he get information? He was like, he got some of your personal stuff. And the third, he got some files. Maybe he caused the whole explosion to cover his tracks and the third. So they're like, why is Jack doing all of this? So there's that. Jack is doing all this stuff. So this is after the first 12 minutes. This is after the first 12 minutes. And so I just decided to pause it and stop it. But they're going to head back to, they have to cut their honeymoon short, and they have to go fly back to Seattle, or yeah, they got fly back to Seattle. All right, so this is the first one. No, this is the first whatchamacallit. This is the first 12 minutes. Movie recap, movie review. I'm not sure if it's not much to react to or anything like that, but yeah, I'm just trying to finish the series or trilogy at this point. You know, last time I the soundtrack from the first one, on point. Soundtrack for the second one, terrible. This one is looking average. It's not as bad. You know, when they finally had their scene, it seemed like it was gonna be a decent song. But other than that, wasn't really walking with it. I think the one thing that did make me kind of sort of like chuckle or laugh was like when they got married, and then you see everybody dancing, and of course, you know, the vanilla. It just I was like, okay, that's a whole thing. So not much to really say or whatever about this, but there's that. That was the first 12 minutes of 50 Shades Free.